on today's episode of Life Embodied.
A lot of my life has been about trying to bridge the apparent gap between the world of somatics and the world of performance. People who do shit out there and people who do shit in here. It's like, why is there such a difference? You need both, right?
Yeah.
And my sense is like where the two meet is really the interesting bit. Because, like you said, navel gazing, right? Like, there's something about becoming like, you can get into this self-referential vortex where like every sensation means something about your childhood, and like it's almost like it's an extractive. It's like we're extracting from nature, like, but we're doing that to our body. We're like excavating and mining our own experience to get the nugget so that we can refine it to turn it into a little crystal that you can put in the iPhone and like tell the story about your trauma as a kid or who you are as a person and where you're going. And it's like, there's something about it that just feels off if we go too deep into that.
Welcome to Life Embodied, where we explore how an embodiment practice can support us in meeting the challenges of life. How can we surf the waves of life deeply anchored in the safety of our bodies? How can we learn to trust our capacity to be with intense sensations and emotions? How can we cultivate body awareness, and why does it matter? Episodes include interviews with experts and practitioners that bring their knowledge and passion and share practical tips for your everyday life. I am your host, Katharina Alf. Thank you for joining us and enjoy the conversation. Welcome, everybody, to today's episode. My guest today is Cantor. And Aaron is a freestyle embodiment and movement expert with over 25 years of experience in the field. He was raised in Japan and Brazil, and Aaron developed a deep appreciation for diverse movement traditions from a young age. His experience spans a wide range of disciplines, including bodywork, personal training, martial arts, yoga, capoeira, and storytelling. He is the founder of Primal Practice, an innovative approach that integrates mindfulness and movement. Aaron is also a coach with Evolve Move Play, like Rafe and Kyle, who both already were on the podcast. And at one of their retreats this summer, I got to know Aaron. I was in awe with his style of teaching, playing, and moving, and I am super curious to find out more about him and his work. He currently teaches both locally in Western Massachusetts, where he lives with his 2 sons, and internationally. So, welcome to the podcast, Aaron.
Hey, thanks, Kat. That was awesome. Can you send that to me? Because I'm always looking for a bio. People are always asking. And I just I have snippets here and there, and I have to yeah. That's
so
awesome.
Did you feel well represented by that?
Yeah, I mean, as well represented as a silly little bio can represent somebody.
Sure.
And I recognize little bits and pieces that I've because every time someone asks for a bio, I create a new one. Mm-hmm. I never use the same one twice. Mm-hmm. So it was nice to have that edited version.
Yeah. Yeah, I imagine it also
things.
It's a narrative that changes, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
For example, you did the primal practice thing. I'm like, oh, I haven't. I called something primal practice because I was under the illusion, mind virus that I had to brand a style to be successful back in the day. So I was like, okay, I'll brand my style, but I hated it. So, and at the same time, it really worked. People would come to my classes before. I'm like, I'm going to go to Aaron's class. What's Aaron's class? I don't know. They talk and talk and talk. And then after I called it Primal, people are like, yo, I'm going to Primal. Primal, what's that?
Yeah. It's actually one thing that I wanted to ask you, if primal practice is still something you do, kind of, or, not really.
I mean, everything that I used to do in primal practice, in a primal practice class, is still some things I do. Mm-hmm. I just, the naming of things.
Sure. Yeah. So
not exciting to me.
Actually, there is a question that I ask every guest at the beginning, and it's a different kind of introduction. The question is, what is it like being your body? What is the physical experience of being Aaron?
Okay, so I'm thinking about that, and like the first thing that comes to mind is like I can go backwards because I want to get away, right? Like I don't want to answer this question. I can go backwards. I can go forward. I can go away. What is it like to be in my body?
Do you not like the question? Because it's
No, I
interesting.
love the question.
You love the question. Okay, good.
It's a good question. I'd rather dance it out with you than talk about it, but it's a good question. And like I'll go to like comparison, like compared to what? But compared to like my own experience, it's awesome. I love being a body so much. I love. Okay, quick story. I had a recent experience. My friend was getting married. We all got together for a bachelor party. And during this bachelor party, we all decided it would be a good idea to take mushrooms together. So I took mushrooms, and I haven't taken mushrooms in a really long time. Mushrooms are in my system, and I grabbed this big long stick, and I'm like, I'm going for a run. And I ran for 4 hours with this stick, paddling essentially on the ground, running up a whole mountain. I ran up to the mountain to watch the sunset. Took 4 hours. It's usually a 6-hour hike. I did it. And the whole time I was thinking that the mushrooms really enjoy being in me. I was like, the mushrooms are so excited right now. The mushrooms are like, oh my God, we get to take this guy for a ride. This is amazing.
Yeah, I get that. It fits the picture somehow. The story.
I don't know if that's a good, like you said, yeah, we can edit things out that are embarrassing. Maybe we edit that out. I don't know.
But I think it really helps. It helps people to get to know you, I guess. Like, I mean, who's Aaron? What's Aaron like? Well, Aaron is a kind of guy that mushrooms would like to be in.
And I don't do it that often. It's just like every time I've done any kind of like psychedelic-y thing, I've just been so glad to have a body. It's like just everything that's going on all the time, just a little more amplified. So, yeah, I love feeling, sensing, being. Words.
Yeah, it's gonna be a lot of them today.
We're gonna do lots of words together today.
Sweet. Yeah, thank you. Thank you. I think it's a great answer.
Can I ask you the same question? I want to
What is
hear
it?
how you answer it.
Being in my body today, or being my body today, is kind of well, there's something in the physical experience that feels like today I haven't been living up to my potential. Like there's like a reserve of energy that feels a bit annoying because it's like this aliveness in me that's like, go live harder, live harder. Yeah, but today I really didn't. And I think it's a sensation that I know well. I think I feel like my body usually has a lot of energy, and it's not always easy for me to channel it well. And so it's not entirely unpleasant because, of course, it's also nice to feel alive and energetic. But there's something a little, it almost feels judgy within my system. Yeah, does that make sense?
Yeah. Yeah. What I'm hearing is something like, at least the way I interpret it is like not used up enough, something like that.
Yeah.
Like I'm not being used well. Yeah,
Yeah, yeah. I haven't been used enough today.
exactly. Yeah. That makes sense to me. This morning, I went out with my son. We went swimming at this kind of river lake. Um, what's a river lake? It's a river, but it kind of wide into this very slow place, so it kind of looks like a lake. So we went swimming in this place, and just like had a beautiful morning, just kind of hanging out. And then after eating breakfast with him, I came back and I was like, I need to use this thing. So I did a cool kind of strange workout thing, which involved climbing trees and like climbing rope and jumping off of things. And as I was doing, I was like, why am I doing this? And the answer that kind of came was something like, because it's really good to be able to do this.
Oh, yeah.
You know,
Yeah. Just because I can.
just because I can. And someday I might actually, because I'm doing some hard work and I actually don't need to. That's the thing. I don't need to be doing this.
You mean you
So
don't need to
there
work
was some
out?
kind of like judgment too, like, why am I doing this? And for me today, the answer was like, because someday I might need to do this. And it's really good to be able to.
When you say you don't need to do it, you mean like you don't need to work out to stay fit because you work hard, or?
More like, yeah, I like working to stay fit. That's a really good thing, right? Yesterday I spent all day working, shovels and rocks and lifting things, and I like that. But it's not to stay fit. I just like doing it. It's good to be able to do these things. And the difference between that and working out is like working out can be a little more skill based, or I guess there's no like utility to like, I'm doing it because I have extra time. I'm doing it because I don't need to be working right now. I'm doing it because I live in an amazing world where we're not like, where I can go to the grocery store and get food. I don't have to like grow my own food. And so there's some kind of element of excess to just the luxury and the privilege of being able to work out and think about movement. And I always question like, why? What? So today the answer was because it's good to be able to do this. Someday I may be called on for the skills.
Yeah, it's true. I think we're already deep into movement practice as a field, kind of, and that is actually quite new to me. Like, this is why I'm pointing it out, because I think it's maybe new to many people listening as well. Because I come from the somatic field, like where it's really a lot about the inner experience of life,
Yeah.
and emotions and narratives and history and trauma and all the things.
Trauma. Everyone's so trauma informed. It's so good.
Yeah.
Everyone's so trauma informed, and their vulnerability shares are so like well rehearsed and well performed. It's
Yeah.
like
It's so good. And
it's so good.
and then I got into this whole but what about movement thing. And I was like, ew, maybe I was navel gazing a little bit, and maybe it's time to like get in touch with the world a little more, and with people and environment and objects and animals and everything out there. And it's great to look at yourself when it's needed and when you need to change something to be in touch better. But ultimately, it's about being in touch or in connection, I think. What do you think?
I want to experience bodywork from you, is what I think. Because then I think we could have I just love to kind of experience what your sense of what the somatic world is. But I mean, a lot of my life has been about trying to bridge the apparent gap between the world of somatics and the world of performance.
Uh-huh.
People who do shit out there and people who do shit in here. It's like, why is there such a difference? You need both, right?
Yeah.
And my sense is like where the two meet is really the interesting bit, because like you said, navel gazing, right? Like there's something about becoming like, you can get into this self-referential vortex where like every sensation means something about your childhood. And like, it's almost like it's an extractive, it's like we're extracting from nature, like, but we're doing that to our body. We're like excavating and mining our own experience to get the nugget so that we can refine it to turn it into a little crystal that you can put in the iPhone and like tell the story about your trauma as a kid or who you are as a person and where you're going. And it's like, there's something about it that just feels off if we go too deep into that.
Yeah.
And that's where like I really appreciate the world of demonstrable skill.
Of the what skill?
Demonstrable skill, like skill you can demonstrate.
Yeah.
Like, and it doesn't mean everyone has to be high level, best athlete in the world, but like, there's got to be able to actually show what you do. Like, that's why I'm like, I really want to experience bodywork with you, because I know you have demonstrable skill in that realm of like real presence and touch and like just being able to ride the subtle waves of sensation and kind of open space and resonate. So that's a form of demonstrable skill, I think. And I think that's a really good way to stay honest, to stay in the realm of demonstrable skill.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah. I've been like, I have this question in the back of my head since I played with you, which is like, how can a bodywork session look even more like play?
Oh, I love that. Yeah.
Because of, I mean, of course, when we do body work together, it's not entirely about navel gazing, right? Because there's already two people and there is two attentions being layered on top of each other and creating this kind of third space. And it's not entirely about one person, but there is something happening and it is connection. And I feel like this connection is where the magic happens, kind of, right? Like, something is being observed by two people and that changes it.
There.
And,
Totally. There's one phenomenon being experienced by two people, or one phenomenon being created by two people.
Yeah.
And experienced differently, but also the same. It's beautiful.
Yeah. And then when we intentionally play, like there is, like, I think there is something very, very related in play and bodywork, like this. It's about attunement. It's about really, attuning to someone else and someone else's experience. If you're a good player, you can play with everybody. If you're a good body worker, you can work with everybody. Like, you're not, you don't need them to perceive themselves well, for example. You can still work with them.
You can work with them and you can guide them into it.
Exactly.
Right? Meet them where they're at and be like, hey, let's nudge you in this direction. Not in a manipulative way, just more like, it'll be more fun for me. I think it'll be more fun for you too. Let's go.
Yeah. So I'm kind of wondering, because I was surprised when I did some research about you. I found out that you do body work, and I was like, I didn't know that. What kind of body work does he do? What kind of body work do you do?
Well, I do the kind of body work that has no name and no certification.
Does it have a mentor?
It does have a mentor. Yeah, it
Oh,
has a
that's
few mentors.
cool. Yeah.
Main mentor is this amazing man named Tom Alden. And Tom Alden is a chiropractor and a yogi. And he's been a yogi for a long time. He's partnered with a very, very famous Iyengar yoga teacher. And he is one of the most brilliant, clear thinkers I've ever met. And I met him very young. I met him in my 20s. And I saw him once a week for about 10 years, sometimes more. We became friends. But he taught me how to feel the body through layers and parts. He taught me how to think about the complexity of this in simple terms. And he also taught me a lot of adjustment skill. His whole methodology was something about adjust yourself. And he saw yoga as a way to learn how to adjust yourself, meaning how to be more in tune versus less in tune. And you can do that part by part. You can do that with the whole. So Tom Alden was a huge, huge influence. And our sessions would usually go, I would work on him, he would work on me, I would work on him, he would work on me. And we just did exchanges for about 2 hours once a week for a long time. And then in the process, I would also work with lots of clients. I was teaching lots of private lessons at the time. And my private lessons became play-based because I just found more effective. And then the play would often turn into like, hey, for the next 15 minutes, next half hour, I'm going to work on you and we're going to do bodywork stuff. So it just kind of, I had a lot of opportunity to practice what I was learning with Tom over the course of many, many years. And then I've been informed by like my earliest memories. I have a few earliest memories. One of my earliest memories is being in Japan with my dad, getting on a motorcycle and going, right? And we had this hour drive through these little like streets and stuff into this little village. And we get to this little hut. We park the motorcycle, and in my memory, there's just smoke pouring out of the windows of the hut. And we go in, and it smells smoky. And this old dude opens a sliding door, and he's like smoking. And he's like gestures for my father to come in. And my father comes in, and then he closes the door. And I'm just sitting out there in the waiting room. And then I hear my dad just, yo! Ah! Oh! And I'm like, what the fuck? So I just run in and bust through the screen door, these sliding screen doors that are made of paper, right? So I just ran through, and there's this guy standing on my father. So I run up to him and I grab his leg and I try to knock him off. And the man is like, and he's like rubbing my head. And my dad's embarrassed. He's like, oh, I'm so sorry. He ripped you. He's like, don't worry about it. He's a good boy. So my dad receiving barefoot shiatsu. But since then I was like, okay, that's something. So I've studied some of that, and I've done some Thai massage, and have a lot of friends who are really good rolfers. I've hung out with this dude who's like a big structural integration guy, Tom Myers, and we've had good conversations. And so I've learned a lot through like just really nice friendships with good body workers as well.
I'm wondering about like these the names you dropped, like the techniques. I think the way that I encountered them, I haven't encountered all of them, but some of them I've encountered, and they feel like more on the technical side to me. Like, also the idea of adjusting something is like almost mechanical. It's like adjusting the machine that the body is on one level. And I'm wondering how and if the intention of play fits into that. Because I cannot imagine you doing body work without being playful about it. And I cannot imagine you working on someone as if they were a machine. So
Right.
So you must combine them, and I'm very curious about that.
Yeah, I love that. That's a really good kind of like, as you're saying that, I'm realizing how in the world of athletics and movement, there's also technicians, and then there's like the shamanoids, right? The people who are just like, it's not about the technique, it's about feel, it's about something else, it's about the image. It's like they're trying to feed their athletes or give themselves like the right feeling or the right orientation versus the right position, right? And yeah, luckily my mentor Tom was very, very gifted in both. He's like, hey, this is like the form a body takes. This is anatomy. This is where things are connected, and everyone's different. And the first thing you have to do is quiet yourself and see yourself clearly and tune into your essence. Like, and then meet someone else, help them quiet themselves, help them see themselves clearly, help them tune into their essence. And then we're going to have a conversation based on what's going on. And I think like conversation's actually a really good word to kind of put in the mix, right? Conversation, play. Play is a kind of weird, wild conversation. Linear, wild conversation where we get to explore all sorts of things. And I know that I started telling stories through bodyworking because often I would be doing body work and someone would be like, they would ask a question and it'd be a technical question. They would ask another question, it'd be a technical question. And then you try to like, oh, it's happening because I got injured here. And there's this whole story of like where their injury came from and why it's this way. And it's like, and I could keep reinforcing that story, or I could put them to sleep, right? I'm like, okay, and I'm like, hush, and like comp them out.
Yeah.
Or I could do something else, which was like take that thing and be like, yeah, you know how boats float in the water? It's really cool how a big boat, like a huge boat, can float in the water and it can carry all sorts of things. And then I would just like tell stories, right? Based on like some of the images and the feelings I would be feeling in their body, and based on some of the things that they were saying. And it wasn't like I was trying anything. It was just like, I don't even want to have this conversation about where your injury came from anymore. Like, we've done this enough. So images would come, I'd speak the images, and then I would turn them into stories, and like we'd have these like very playful conversations based on images versus our history of pain and our history of injury, you know?
Yeah. What did that do? What happened?
We didn't any things. Lots of things happened. It made it more interesting.
Yeah.
To actually, it allowed me to see, and allowed people I was working with to see what was occurring from different perspective, right? Kind of broke the frame in a way. And I think that's what games do. I think that's what good stories do, good games do, and good conversations, right? They take the frame and then they crack it just a little bit. They break it. And you're like, oh, from a different perspective, it doesn't matter. Or, oh, from a different perspective, it's just so tiny. This thing I thought was so big is just so tiny. And now I can breathe. And as I'm breathing, I'm realizing like that's all I really needed. I just needed to breathe. I was like in contraction, and now I can relax. So yeah, I think that's what it did. It allowed for breath or some kind of like light to seep in. Some kind of new way of holding the experience. Because often it seems like one of our limiting factors is that we have stories that kind of like organize how we're perceiving things. And if you modify the story a little bit, then perception comes in differently. And then there's a whole reorganization. So I think just like story, like telling stories as I was doing body working was like a gentle way to massage and like work with the story as well as just the flesh, right? Um, yeah, yeah. I don't know. I feel like I'm in like ethereal realm of the abstract right now as I'm talking, like because I'm
Well, I think,
generalizing like 100 different experiences into like
of course,
a few different principles, and it's just like, yeah, you
yeah,
know,
but I'm with you. I feel like
the game we're playing a game, right? The game is the podcast game. We're trying to like have an interesting conversation for some imaginary audience, and also like share some nice ideas with each other. Um, but I think like when I do body work, there's a game too. It's like this is the body work game. I'm gonna move you around. You're gonna feel things. You're gonna tell me what you feel. We're gonna have this thing. I'm helping you out. One thing I used to do with people is like get very interactive. Like for example, if I have someone's limb and I'm moving it around, holding their joints, cradling them really nicely, moving their arm or their leg, I put them in a position, like a healthy position, be like, hey, can you move me now? Can you push me? Can you pull me? Like, awesome. And I would like ask for like the smallest amount of resistance. And then we'd start having this like, this dance. And finding the gaps in awareness or the places where our meeting wasn't full.
yeah.
It's like there's places where we meet each other and there's places where we just disappear. So that became like for about 2 or 3 years, that became like one of my main techniques or one of my main ways of exploring. And I had a lot of success like healing chronic injury and kind of getting through like tendinosis and things like that with that, just that basic technique, that basic principle
Yeah.
of like, let's meet each other and then see what happens. And we're meeting each other through the slightest bit of like pressure or resistance or like, and the prompt was always like, I'm going to start moving you. And then your job is to say yes, no, or maybe. You know, like it's kind of like an improv session. It's like take what I'm doing and say yes and or no but or maybe we could, you know, and like then we start having this conversation. If I'm doing that and you're doing that, we can
Yeah.
do beautiful things.
Yeah. Yeah. I love how that is actually a conversation on eye level. Because I think that is such a common trap when you learned some form of therapy or whatever, that you play, not you, but them, they, us, all of us.
The other people. The other people
place their perception above their client's perceptions. Like I have trained my perception, therefore I perceive better, and I will tell you what to perceive. And
Yeah.
that is such a dangerous thing because you can bullshit people so easily, and you can suggest stuff to them, and then suddenly they feel it. And you know, like there are so many. I think so many suggestible clients among the bodywork clients because it just works so well on them because you can suggest anything to them, and
Totally.
and I love how that, like, yeah, to focus on it being a conversation, and a conversation on eye level. I like that. Like that's one thing I heard in what you told me.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it kind of proves my point question, if it's actually all about connection.
Yeah. I think it. Yeah. Say what you were saying. I want to hear more.
I think so many things that are limiting us or that we're suffering from are problems in connection. And therefore kind of need to be healed in connection, or you know, like connection needs to be relearned or something like that.
Yeah.
And I mean, most certainly experienced this with my back. I had a back injury in my early 20s. And I
Right. And this
was,
is when you were like successful acting and like doing all sorts of things.
well, yeah, semi-success. Well, what?
Semi-successful.
Yeah, it's a question of perspective. Some would say I was successfully acting. Yeah, and then this back pain came, and most of the people that tried to help or that I wanted to help me looked at me like a broken machine, and they tried to fix me like you tried to fix a machine.
Right.
And that didn't work at all. And yeah, then finally I found a body worker who didn't look at me like a broken machine. If she looked at me like a machine, she looked at me like a working machine. It's like, you know, like your back hurting is not a sign of a dysfunction. It's like the back is doing exactly what it's supposed to do.
Yeah.
We just got to
There's deep
figure out.
intelligence in what's going on.
Exactly. There's deep intelligence in what's going on. We need to trust it. We just need to figure out what the hell's going on. And I think over the years and the still ongoing process of exploration, and it's not only about back pain anymore, right? Like it's about all the other things that came up or that I discovered. Feels like it's about connection again and again, like these the deep insecurities and the grieving of unsuccessful connection or around connection, and how to relearn that. Am I making sense, or am I like?
Yeah. I mean, it's like what you're saying is such a. It's such a profound, like it can be taken on so many levels. Like lack of connection causes suffering, pain, more disconnection, making bad decisions, doing dumb shit, more disconnection. You know, like there's these like exponential, like fractal relationships between connection, disconnection. Yeah, and creating connections between parts of yourself that haven't been connected for a while, creating connections between self and world, self and environment, self and other self. This part of myself to that part of yourself. Like there's like, yeah, it makes a lot of sense. I'm just thinking of webs and lines of connection. And one of my favorite like perceptual games, just when I have people out in the world, and this is not even it's like a solo game, is to just see the world, the objects in it. Like right now I'm looking out my window and I see two houses, and each house has a roof, and each roof has a little chimney, little brick chimney. And I imagine that chimney is friends with that other chimney, and they're connected. And then I'm looking down just below, there's a tiny little chimney on a tiny little roof just below. And I imagine that little chimney is like, hey guys, don't forget about me. And every once in a while, the big chimneys look down at the little chimney. Now there's a triangle that's not just like across, but there's some depth to it because of that third one. So just creating connections between like, oh wow, those windows on that house and that house are facing the same direction. Sometimes they talk about what they're seeing, you know, like, I don't know. It just like seeing the world as creating connections that are there, but aren't, and that's just like a narrative connection, but just like creating perceptual connections, I think makes the world more magic, beautiful, living, textured, rich.
Yeah.
And then I can play in that space and dance in that space. And it's not because I did something. It's more like I got out of the way and allowed my imagination to kind of do what it does. And now there's like, the air is not just empty. It's full of these like, it's thick and I can swim in it.
Yeah, it's something to pay attention to that, and that inspires and affords creativity also in movement, right? Like it's also it reminds me of what you said before, like the changing of the narrative. It's like, okay, like let's just pick a different framing here. What if, like I try to move my butt in connection to the floor?
Yeah.
What
Totally.
happens?
Yeah, as you're saying that, like I'm remembering that for a little bit, and I never got deep into it. I'm not a very good student, right? So like I get into something and I kind of dive into it, and then I stop reading the books and I stop studying it. But like I'm informed by it. So there was a moment where I was really inspired by this guy, Milton Erickson, I believe. And he was a hypnotist that had and a therapist, and he had amazing success rates. And a lot of people say he's like the person that neuro-linguistic programming is based off of. There's a few other people too, but he's like one of the main people they studied. They studied like how he spoke. And one of the things he would do when he had clients is he would listen to them for a little bit, and then he would just tell them a story. And he would watch what was going on in their body as he said words. And he would basically use stories therapeutically to hypnotize people into healing. So there was a curiosity about that I also like was kind of playing with on my own.
Yeah. Sweet. Sweet. I actually want to quote you to you. I took a note.
Oh shit.
And it's nothing bad.
Okay.
It's a very
Hope you
short.
read.
It's a very short thing. You said it in another podcast, and you said that play is not selfish. It's about including others.
Wow.
Yeah, right.
That's so
Aaron
nice.
Cantor.
He said that.
You said that.
That guy said that? Wow. Yeah. Oh, that's beautiful. That's a really nice thing.
It's so kind, right? It's so kind, and
It's so kind. And it's like you're more playful in the world. You're including more people in your game.
yeah, and more parts of yourself also,
Yeah.
right? Like I think in the, like to not outcast the seemingly unlovable parts of yourself, but to include them into play.
Yeah. Oh, that's lovely. I like that. Like playing with, all the things that all the shadow bits or the bits that we judge, right? Like I'm just thinking of what you were saying before about like feeling judgy that you haven't been well used today, and playing with that. Like talking about it and laughing about it is one form of playing with it. But then there's other ways to like embody that and be like, I don't know how it would look, but,
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, we can play with that. That's cool. Where'd you find that? That's awesome.
I think it was in the what was it called? Just Fly movement, maybe.
Huh. With the Olympic sprinter guy, with Joel. Maybe.
No, I think it was in Behind the Movement.
Okay, with Kyle, yeah.
Yeah.
Cool.
Behind the Movement. That was
So-
an interesting episode.
Yeah. We went all over the place. I'm the worst at podcasts. I just like
So far, you're doing fine, I think. How am I doing?
you're doing great. I like talking to you.
Cool.
I just kind of
Same.
lose track of the audience.
Oh yeah,
I
that.
I don't have anything to sell. It's more like I'm interested in you, and and then you're like, but I'm interested in you, and I got to get you to talk. And I'm like, I don't want to talk. I'm kind of interested in you. So
I mean, I might not be an actress anymore, but I still love talking, so it's fine.
so good. I want to know about
Okay.
your Your hand-heart connection.
My hand-heart connection. So my hands are usually very warm. And all kind of things connected to the bodywork I learned come up, and I'm wondering if that is just like, if that is true, or if that is just like more on the propositional end of knowledge.
Right. Yeah, it's so hard to tell, right? Because like we have these frameworks,
Oh,
and then it's just like, it's so easy to talk through the framework.
yeah. I mean, right now I can read, like, my hands are really like throbbing. Like when I go there with my attention, like right now, like heart, arms, and hands really feel like one space.
Uh-huh.
But I also know that I carry tension in my shoulders, and that there is actually some effort in the connection, like some unnecessary effort in my heart-hand connection, for sure. But usually, I think it shows up here again, like this sensation of I'm not used well enough. Yeah. It's like my hands are constantly hungry to grab harder,
Touch more things. Squeeze
touch more
harder.
things. Yeah.
More world.
More world. I want more world.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, that's interesting. And there's a difference between hungry hands and curious hands.
Oh, that's true. Yeah.
You know, like sometimes my hands are hungry, my whole body, my skin's hungry, and sometimes it's curious. It's just like, oh, like I just want. It's not like I haven't gotten my fill. Like I'm satisfied. I've touched enough today, but I'm still curious about like what things feel like, right? Um, I like that answer. That's good. Yeah, I can definitely like when you said like heart, arms, hands being like one thing. I really like that. Like, because hand heart connection implies we have to connect two different things. Versus like, boom. What do you mean? It's one thing. What kind of connection do I have to create? It's like one thing. And
Yeah.
that's like actually like one of the things with I started off in yoga, and like a big epiphany for me, and this is not a huge epiphany at all. It's so stupid when I think about it, but like when I had it, it was like, whoa, this is amazing. And it was like the definition I had for yoga is like yoga is uniting, right? It's uniting body, mind. It's like bringing them together. And there was so much fucking effort in that process of like trying to unite different parts of myself. And then at one point I was like, no, they're already one. Just like relax, right? Like uniting versus unity
Yeah.
it's a thing. So your answer to that is like, and then there's some effort and there's stuff and they're separate, but they're the same. It's like there's shit you can work with, but
Yeah. But that's a huge epiphany. I mean, if that is something that is not an idea, but something you actually experience,
yeah.
that's some trippy shit.
It was trippy shit. It was amazing. And it happened through the course of a few like different practice sessions and like a few different weeks. But it was a sense of like, holy, I would catch myself doing things, trying to do a thing. Like, for example, I'd be meditating, and here I am meditating, but somewhere in the back of like the gutter of like the cinema in the back of my mind, like I was like, wait a second, I'm playing a movie. of a guy meditating, trying to do a thing. There was some kind of narrative, right? There's like always some kind of removed from uniting. It was like, whoa, all of that is extra. And when I drop all of that, there's the words I don't like them, but
The gesture was great. It was like,
boom, boom, boom. Yeah, exactly.
what made you ask about the hand-heart connection?
I wasn't actually really curious about it. I just wanted to ask you a question. And so it wasn't premeditated. It was more like I wanted to ask you a question. I was searching for something. I softened myself. I widened my perspective. I tried not to chase any ideas. And then my words said, I'm curious about your hands, because I am. You have really good hands. Like just the few times like we've been able to play and stuff, it's like, oh, these are super intelligent, sensitive, amazing hands. Because it's a skill you've developed. And then it was hand-heart connection. It seemed like just like a poetic, kind of like not super creative.
It's
whatever. It seemed like a very mundane like question to ask a body worker.
Yeah, it's great. It's great, and I'm glad you're sharing the process of reaching to that question, because I've just tried to find the next question by looking at my notes.
Cool. That's
Which is
even better than widening. It's like entering the space of just not knowing and then just saying something and seeing what else follows.
It's so good.
Yeah. If I knew how to write, I would probably have notes too.
Yeah, no, I mean, I made a list of things that I would like to ask you.
Cool. Should we just read all of them? Do you want to read all of them right now?
Okay, let me read all of them, and then I'll do the widening and softening, maybe.
Yeah,
So,
I mean, do whatever you want. I'm enjoying this. This is good.
I want to read the list. It's not structured. It's just bullet points.
That's good.
I want to ask about your story, about play, about wonder. Oh, that's good. I want to know about wonder. Storytelling and training. I think we already spoke about this. Bodywork. Hating structured training. It's also something you said, that you hate structured training. So.
Oh, that's too strong a word. Hate's too strong.
Well, I'm just quoting here, I guess.
Okay, yeah. No, I can contradict myself. That's one of the...
Yeah. Who cares about the shit we said yesterday, right?
Exactly.
You also said that a formula is not the same thing as the way in.
Okay. Yeah, I don't know what that means, but we can talk about that.
Maybe we can find out what it means. I think I still know the context of it. Yep, primal play, we touched on that. Self-improvement, fitness, and movement.
Blah, cool. I love that.
I love that. And then just a thought that came up when I listened to one of your podcasts, when you talked about how you not like marketing and how finding a niche, how you don't want to find a niche. And I once heard this definition of a niche as the niche actually being your role in the community. And I just thought maybe that's something that you could come to terms with.
Yeah, I love that. Thank you. As I was thinking about this podcast, I thought about things I could ask you. Like, and one thing I'm already learning is you got this like thing called Squadcaster. That sounds awesome.
Yeah.
So I'll research offline, but just like how to like actually create platforms to have good conversations, because that's what I love doing. But the other thing was I wanted to ask you more about like, hey, how do you run your business? Like, how do you do things? Like, how do you approach being in the world and being of service without losing your soul? So I like what you just said about a niche being like your role in the community. It's like, this is my responsibility. This is the role I take on. I take on the role of the movement
Doesn't
person.
it suck so much that we have to come up with that ourselves? I
Yeah.
wish I had competent elders in my community that just told me who I am, that just be
Yeah.
like, you're a cat and you are the soft one, and your role is to offer solace. And I'm like,
Yeah.
alrighty then, I'll do
All right.
that.
Thank you. Yeah. Where are the fucking old people? Where'd they go? You left us alone. It's their fault.
So,
Now we
yeah,
systematically fucking, yeah. Anyway, it does suck that we have to do it on our own.
yeah,
Cause like, how much do I know?
yeah, exactly. And who
Like my
and who
perspective is so,
exactly
it's
who
bound to be narcissistic, right? It's bound to be like tied up in my own like bullshit. So,
exactly, exactly. And who even is my community that I'm supposed to have a role in?
right. And that's actually where like I trust more when the career or the thing emerges versus it's been decided on. It's like, what's my role? Well, someone just texted me and said like, hey, I'm looking for an after school program for my kid. She's doing this and this and this and this, but I'd really like her to do something else. Do you want to lead something? That's like, I don't have to say yes to that, but that's like, oh, someone else is already asking me to fulfill a role. So I can
Yes.
steer. And if enough people ask me, then I'm like, okay, well, that's my role, I guess.
Yeah.
So that's kind of
Absolutely.
like a non-intellectual way to do it. It's just like, okay, I'm responding to the need.
Yeah, I mean, I guess that's true that that even if there is not the elder that tells you, the world still tells you.
Yeah.
Like there will be feedback. There definitely will be feedback, and still you will be tested. Like
Yeah.
this is an idea I really like. Like you will be tested repeatedly. If you choose something, you have to prove you really want it.
Right.
Like that's how I feel. Like I got to know bodywork and I was like, okay, I want to do that. Like I cannot imagine not being interested in this at some point. Like this feels infinitely interesting and I really want to do it. And then I started to train and I started to work with people. And then again and again, times would come where no one would show up. And that felt like the test. Like, okay, so far so good. Do you still want it? Do you still love it? Are you still sure? And then I had to kind of prove my love for it. That's what it felt like. I had to be like, I had to reassure everybody, like, yes, I still want to do this. And I invited people again and I reached out and I made it known and people would come again. And I can't believe how many times that happened. Over
Yeah.
years, it happened again and again and again. And it felt like, yeah, it felt like being tested. And that's great because you don't want people to do that don't really deeply love it.
Yeah. No, that's beautiful. It's like, yeah, showing up for your beloved time and time again,
Yeah,
even when your beloved isn't there.
yeah,
You know, like you go to this garden to meet
yeah,
and you just keep going. And
exactly.
then someday they're going to be there.
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. Yeah, it feels like a long-term relationship.
That's beautiful. Yeah. It's dedication to a practice.
Yeah,
Yeah. Showing up,
yeah,
even when you're not being recognized for it, even when you're not getting paid for it, even when, yeah. Yeah. And that to me is the sustainable thing. That's the thing that I trust in people. Right. Um, yeah. And not to say that marketing is bad or stuff, but my sense of the world that I want to live in is the people who keep showing up to their practice are taken care of. You know,
yeah,
like, um,
yeah.
yeah,
Yeah, it's actually something that's been I don't know what the right word is, kind of like irritating to see. I mean, you're not on social media, bless you. I still am on social media, and it's disturbing because I feel like so many people are marketing their way out of incompetence. They're not good at anything, they're just good at marketing.
Yes. Yeah,
Or
yeah, yeah.
they just look good. You know, like in the embodiment
Right.
field, like just looking good is a
You're good at
huge
looking good.
asset.
You're
Yeah,
really good at taking pictures of your ass. That's amazing. You're
exactly.
really good at making your biceps huge and taking the right picture and saying the right thing. That's your fucking skill in the world.
Exactly. Yeah. And then it's framed like embodiment practice or like goddess awakening retreat stuff. And
Oh, the Goddess Awakening retreats. Those are the
have you
those
been?
are the ones. I could be born. Yeah. Anyway, I
So I love that. I love that framing. The ones that keep showing up to their practice are taken care of. Yeah.
yeah, yeah. And when I think about it, like I definitely have been taken care of in many ways. Like I have food. There's a nice little place for me to practice, and like I pay my rent most months, and I can even travel sometimes and like host people. And for the most part, I do work that I really love.
Yeah.
Actually, I only do work that I really love. Even when I'm doing manual labor stuff, I'm like, I actually love this. I'm so glad that I'm spending my day carrying dirt. Yeah.
When I looked a little into your history, like the little bits and pieces that can be found in the internet, I realized that, like, in the ways you've practiced or the amount of time and things and you practiced and the skills you developed, if you had chosen to market yourself differently, you would be in this generation of pioneer movement bubble gurus, right?
Yeah, yeah, definitely. Definitely. Right up there
And
with all things.
with all the shushu shashas.
Yeah, the
Like,
shushu shashas. I'm friends with a lot of the shushu shashas.
yeah,
Um, yeah. Not
yeah.
all of them, but some of them. Good
And
friends,
I,
actually.
yeah, good friends. So they're nice people,
Some
some
of
of
them, yeah.
them. Yeah, because I've been questioning like this whole fame thing.
Yes.
Like, if you actually can be famous and sane. I don't know. We don't have to answer that. It's just you can, but we don't have to.
Right. One of the things that's happening that I find very, very strange, and I can't really speak to it from deep experience, but I see it a lot, is because of the external eye of the camera and the thing you're going to post about your practice changes.
Yeah. Yeah.
It just does. And I don't think it necessarily has to change for the worse, but it does change.
Yeah.
And it becomes less about the deep joy, less about what's actually deeply interesting, and more about what's going to look good, more about what's going to get the thumbs up, more about like what's going to help you sell the retreat or the thing. And
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. I just had a very ridiculous experience like that. It was actually when I was still in America, and one morning I was on the balcony and I was doing some morning movement, and I was like, hey, I can actually like film myself doing some morning movement and then post something about my morning routine. And I set up my phone and I picked a nice angle and I started to do the moving again. And I almost hurt my back. It's so
Yeah.
ridiculous because
Well,
suddenly
no.
I wasn't paying attention to the experience anymore. And
Right.
I moved in a completely dumb way. Yeah. And yeah, my back was hurting after. And I was like, that was very dumb.
And very intelligent of your back. Be like, hey,
Exactly.
wrong. You're not not that way. Whatever else you're doing, don't do that.
Yeah. Yeah. So I really get this resistance to putting yourself out there.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, so much of what I'm trying to do is like, it's very much about connection and relationship. From this fundamental level of like touch, gesture, and like sound. You know, like, and we can layer words on top of that and stories on top of that, but like fundamentally we want to be like in a place where we can actually touch each other or see each other make gestures and then like sing to each other and like, whoa, right? That's like the realm of play and work that I'm interested in. Because it's fundamental, that's deep, that's like animal, that's like Paleolithic, right? And then there's shit that's layered on top of it that's
Debatable.
propositional. Yeah, but it's debatable. It's like we can actually fucking argue about it forever.
Yeah.
But we can't argue about like, hey, I touched you. I pushed you. You pushed me. Like, we're here. I made this sound. You definitely heard it. You may not like, we could argue about the words I said, but you definitely heard the sound. So.
Yeah.
Yeah. And that's where play is so interesting, right? Because play can be a place where we can get to the fundamentals of touch, gesture, sound, and communication. Like discovering communication. That's one of the most interesting things in a game is discovering what the game is. Like, there's the rule of the game, and yeah, I want to win. You want like, but like, there's something else. There's like discovering what game we're actually playing. Like, yeah, that to me is really beautiful.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm wondering. I'm wondering. Period. No, what do you think? Like, people that don't play much, do they actually? Do you think they have a chance of connecting to the way we talk about play?
Probably not. I don't know. I was wondering that, like, what's it going to be like? Because now I'm in the mindset of like, what's it going to be like to listen to this?
Yeah.
You know, like a lot of pauses, a lot of people saying like, I say something and I space out and think about it, and then you say something, and we're like, yeah. So maybe like I feel somewhat playful what we're doing. Like we're playing with ideas and we're playing with this format of having a conversation around something. So maybe people can connect on a fundamental level, but like, it's like this. It's like if you know how to play, you kind of feel it. And if you don't know how to play, you have to resort to games and what the rule of the game is. And like, you know, everyone likes to play games of some sort.
Of some sort, probably.
Of some sort. There's always a game someone likes to play. So you have to find that game and then like look for like the joy inside of that game. So soccer is a game. It's played over here. The field is this big. You try to score a goal over there. You got this many members. But like, that's not the fucking fun part. The fun part is not knowing what's going to happen and having to like, whoa, the ball is coming towards me right now. That guy's running at me right now. I got to get the ball over there. And it's not a calculated thing. It's like my body's figuring something out in space, in time. And I did a thing I didn't know I was capable of doing.
Yeah.
You know, that's like where the joy is.
Oh,
And my
that's
sense
that's.
is that
No, sorry.
that's
Continue.
we all love it. Like I can't imagine there being a human being out there that doesn't love feeling alive like that. Everyone I've met loves those moments of feeling alive. So I think everyone can connect to play.
Yeah. How much time do you have?
Forever. No.
Okay.
I have to go at 4:30 my time. I have a session. Play
Which
session.
is a play session, which is in 40 minutes.
It's in 40 minutes, yeah.
Okay. Okay. So we have a little bit more.
We have a little window, yeah.
A little window. Cool.
Is this meeting any of your requirements right now?
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm computing. I'm wondering, like, because there is one thing that you said that I could pick up on, or I could think about. Are there any other interesting things that I really, really want to talk about? You know, like, just are we changing the subject or not? Or
Sure.
yeah. And also, what am I most interested in? Like, we could talk, like, you know, like one question that I have in my mind right now is like, is structured training actually needed, or can we just play all the time?
Yeah, no,
Or
that's a super interesting question. And I think it's like a little bit of both. Like structured training, like what's a structure? A structure is something kind of somewhat predictable, right? So something somewhat predictable is kind of needed if you want to progress in a particular direction. So my sense is like, it's really good to be structured around times to experiment and play. Like the structure is created to hold a space for the unknown.
yeah,
And that's where like portals are really interesting. I think one of the questions you had was something about a formula is not the same as the way in. And I think, I'm not sure what I was talking about then, but I think it has something to do with, for me, portals are really important. So a way in. So I have these structures, these rituals or whatever, that get me into the body, these simple practices that just get me in. And then once I'm in, I don't have to be told what to do. Like I'm doing the thing. Like I'm in, I'm in this world, and the world has like fucking fruit to eat and like lakes to dive into. So like, that's what I'm doing. But I have to get there. So I think structure is really important for that.
yeah,
And then when you're in, it's really nice to have like some kind of meta perspective. Like, let's say I'm doing an improvisation, and I realize that there's a thing I want to do, and I just don't know how to do it. Like, I can't go over my left shoulder. Like, I try all these things, but I'm limited. I can imagine doing something, and I can't actually do it. This is a great time to like have structure, to like develop the capacity or the pathway that I want to play with, and I'm not able to play with.
yeah,
And it doesn't mean I have to go like to the gym and do bench presses. Like I can still be very, very playful in kind of honing the specific structured skill that I want.
yeah.
So
Yeah,
it's
that makes
for me,
sense.
it's like about games, like they big games and small games, like zooming in, zooming out, creating the tiniest little game to work on the thing, and then a really big game linking in. Yeah. And a game is like a really important structure.
Yeah, I mean, if I think about back in the day when I was when I was a child and I was playing, setting up the structure was the most important part of the game. It often took
Yeah.
longer than the game itself.
Totally.
Even
I
like this.
watch kids all the time doing that. They
Yeah.
fucking spend an hour talking about the rules of the game and like, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, and all the, all the role play.
Yeah.
with my girlfriends. Like, so I would be this one and you would be that one and my name would be and blah, blah, blah. And like, just like the framework of the story was like so important.
Yeah. And if we kind of zoom out on that, that's actually the real game that's going on there. The real game was negotiating what the game was. And then there's the playing of the game, but it's like there's something that's actually happening where everyone's having the fun. And that was like the setting it up.
Yeah. Yeah. And you learn so much about people in the setting up of the game, right?
Totally. Yeah, and you learn a lot about people in playing the game, which is where like in facilitation these days, like I'm trying to have like the minimum possible structure.
Yeah. I experienced
Minimum
that.
possible structure so I can actually see like who's confused, who's having a really hard time, who wants like, because that's actually what's happening in the group, right? Like the group working out their own frustrations and their own like that's actually like really interesting, and a lot comes from that. And then it's useful to have a little frame, a meta moment of like, hey, guess what? This is purposefully very low on the structure end because the emergent structure is actually like really important, and how it emerges and who it emerges through. And like that's one of the things we're studying, you know?
Oh, that's amazing. Yeah. Yeah.
But yeah, I love like when I think of structure, I think it's almost inescapable, right? Like my bones provide a structure. My skin is containing me. Like there's like, you know, like, so respecting the structure that actually already exists, like the ground, it's amazing. Grounds are good, you know, like we're in a world with gravity. Gravity's amazing. We have these like, well, like, so all of these things are so structured already. So we can't escape it, but we can really play with it, you know?
Yeah. Yeah. It sometimes sounds so unsexy structure, but actually, like, you know, it would be really annoying without any structure. So,
Yeah, I'm wondering, like in the field of creativity, we talk a lot about constraints, right? Like, there's no creativity without a constraint. You actually have to have the constraint in order to like come up with a cool solution. If you have unlimited everything, then it's like, what the fuck? Like,
Yeah.
there's no problem, right?
Yeah. Yeah. I think it's something that I didn't know for a very long time. Like it felt like I was working against constraints most of the time. Like
Yeah.
we have to get rid of the constraints. Let's get rid of the constraints. I don't want to be constrained.
Yeah.
But then,
And that's kind of like a young person thing, right?
Yeah,
It's
probably.
like it makes sense.
Yeah, it's true. It's true.
Like
Probably
you're
also.
fucking 20, of course.
Yeah. True. Might be just I'm just in a different age now.
I think so much of like my evolution, like when I look at it, like it's not because I've grown. Well, it's because I've grown, but it's like in very, very predictable, like just like that, how everyone grows.
Yeah,
You know, like
you've just grown older.
I've just gotten older, and like the thing that was interesting isn't interesting anymore because I'm in a different phase. It's not because I'm wiser. It's not because of anything. It's just like my hormones are changing. I had that experience. I don't want to fucking sleep on the couch anymore. I want to have a bed. Like it's
Yeah. And that doesn't mean that beds are better in general for everybody always.
right.
For some people, it doesn't matter genuinely. So yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah, I fear that sometimes. Sometimes I'm afraid that I haven't, like I didn't grow. Yeah, like you said it. I didn't grow. I've just grown older.
But to me, there's something so honest about that. Like,
Yeah.
versus like, I am so special, and through my efforts, I attained wisdom. You know, like, I don't know. if that's true, versus like, I'm just an idiot. I'm going through the world making a bunch of mistakes just like everyone else. And through the fucking mistakes that I've made, without even trying to, I've gained some kind of like perspective that's a little more useful than what I had. Like, that's just more honest.
Yeah, very much. Yeah. And what a relief on the other side, right? If we don't take ourselves too serious, like, what a
Yeah.
relief.
Yeah. It's like, well, like back to like the whole like connecting versus like, oh, you're all one. Like, you and your mistakes and your phase of life and the things you're interested in, that's all part of it. Um, yeah. I think it is important to kind of make some kind of effort, right? Towards like wisdom,
Yeah.
but not too much. Oh,
I think, I really like the quest that Return to the Source was about. Like, what does it mean to
yeah.
be a good player? I think that's a
Yeah.
great quest.
That's a good prompt. Yeah.
Yeah. So to go out there and to try to figure out how to be a better player, I think there's a lot to be discovered there. I already discovered so much since we met.
Yeah. Tell me.
I mean, I guess I explored the when is it actually good for the game if I lose?
Yeah.
I did a whole roughhousing session with my friends around the prompt. What happens if I embrace losing? And everybody was so happy. Everybody was like losing all the time and was so happy about it. It was such a great session.
So good. That's great.
I mean, we did all these games of like stroking each other's faces or trying to hug from behind and like stuff like that. And
Sure.
everybody was just so happy losing and just being stroked and hugged and
Oh, that's love. Yeah, exactly. And that's such a beautiful thing about these games, right? Like, it's like when you lose, you get a hug. That's amazing. You
exactly.
know?
I hope I lose.
Right. Or like, no, please don't hug me. No, no, please. It's like, it can
Yeah,
become like, yeah,
yeah, it's just a constant happy losing. So I think I've grown more aware of the moments when I'm upset about losing and asking myself if that is actually necessary and helpful.
ooh,
Like just the seriousness around trying to win on all levels and all contexts. Just like questioning that more.
yeah,
Yeah.
that's cool.
Yeah. Just like what are the advantages of just losing right now? Like recently, like my schedule wasn't fully booked. Like there were like I could have offered more sessions than were booked. And I still get annoyed sometimes when that happens because it scares me. I'm afraid of not making enough money and like, all
Sure,
these kind of
sure.
things. And then I was like, okay, let's just like, how can this not be a bad thing? And I was
Right.
like, you know what? I actually really could use the extra time off.
Totally.
It was
Time
such a
when you're not
win.
working is so good to practice.
Yeah. So yeah, and it almost felt like a trusting the process moment of like, yeah, like not so much work today, but there will be more work tomorrow, so I'm gonna be fine and happily losing.
Yeah, that's lovely. That's lovely. And then it's like there's small lose and big lose, right? Small win
Of
and big
course.
win. So the big win is you keep learning. And one of the best ways to learn is actually allow yourself to lose. Like, because there's possibilities there, right? There's a whole possibility space that opens up when you kind of let go a little bit um, of a narrow outcome. So, yeah, I want to teach you. I want to figure out a way we can create a workshop together
Yes,
that
please.
combines like body work and games. Ideally, so one of my main missions, one of the things I really want to do is like reform. It's not small, it's big. It's like reform
hopefully.
education. The
Yes.
way education isn't great, right? And it goes fucking deep. It goes so deep. Like, I don't know why we're taught the way we're taught, but it's not the best way to teach. And then like we try to teach other people and we kind of recreate the same ways of teaching. It's dumb. So the best way to learn, games. We can teach deep bodywork skills on an energetic, physical, structural level through games.
Yeah.
And have a lot of fun in the process of learning and teaching.
Yeah.
So I think we should do that.
Absolutely. Please, let's do it. I already thought about like, I want to invite my body worker friends for like to go to a cottage for a week and just explore body work and play. And I wanted to invite you to come to give some sessions, and we can all like give sessions and explore and do a lab kind of situation together. And
beautiful.
Yeah.
Okay, so this is reminding me of like an insight I had about the new definition of success for me. So the new definition of success for me is not having like a business that's making a ton of money and like now having my own patented form of whatever movement, body work that I'm like putting out there and doing teacher trainings for. Yeah. Now I'm on the top of the pyramid. Woohoo! Congratulations. I turned my passion into a business. That's not success. Success is really being able to go to this cabin with you and meet a whole bunch of cool body workers and coming out of that with more knowledge than I went in. Mm-hmm. And something beautiful's happened in the world and a whole bunch of people are better for it. And I was an integral part of it. And they were an integral part of it, right? And now like this idea of play is spreading and I have some skills that I can take back to my community. And like, I think change happens in that way. And if I can create a life where like I'm doing retreats like that all the time, that's success, right?
Absolutely.
And it's different because like, for example, Rafe has a different model. He wants to have these big retreats and they're really good retreats. Like I love participating in them. I love doing them, but they're expensive and they're built on this model of like, I'm going to pay a lot of money to be led through an experience. Yeah. And I'd much rather have like, hey, you don't have to pay a ton of money. Come to this thing, show up, and we're going to come away transformed. Yeah.
Yeah, it's again like connection on eye level.
Yeah. Versus identifying, right? It's identifying as teacher or student versus identifying as learner, participator. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Ooh. But then you got to be careful about who you select, right? It's like, you don't just invite anybody.
No, we don't invite just anybody.
Not anybody. You people listening to this, you're probably not invited.
You gotta study connection and play and perception more.
Well, this is for high level humans. High level. You gotta master the basics.
Yeah, we will figure it out.
Yeah,
I would love to do that.
No, but I love the idea. I think like creating. I mean, I know a lot of like super smart people, right? And they're always doing shit like this for themselves. They're getting grants and then creating these little think tanks. Mm-hmm. And they fucking rent a place and they go and spend a month there, and they just do what they do. They just have ideas all the time, and someone's recording the ideas, and then they come away with it like, here's the project, you know. Yeah. So I think kind of having that for people who are kind of processing or being in the world in a different way, more somatically, is really important. Mm-hmm. What tends to happen is they just all get together and like start having sex, though. So there's like
there have to be constraints around sex.
There has to be structure, right?
Yeah. It's a different kind of cabin.
Yeah, it's a different retreat.
Yeah.
People, yeah. But no, I love this idea of like deepening our capacity to teach bodywork, be body workers through play, deepening our capacity to play and be players through bodywork. It's both ways, right?
Yeah.
And then what can that teach us about larger life?
Yeah. Look at us. We're all hyped up here.
Woo, let's go.
I have more topics, but they will be for another conversation.
Cool. I hope.
Yeah.
I hope this was useful for you.
I mean, it was such a pleasure for me. I think there are other, I can think of people who would like to listen to that.
Right. There's like 1.5 people I know.
At least one more person.
Maybe 1.5 people.
Yeah.
Yeah. We can try to have another conversation that's more linear too. I don't know if I'm...
Oh, I don't mind. I honestly don't mind. Like I think this was quite linear. And, like the reason I do this podcast is because I like talking to people that way. And if other people like to listen to that, that's cool. But it's not my main reason. Like, I think I recently interviewed my best friend, and we've spent so much time talking to each other in the last year.
That's cool.
I got to know about him so much because usually
Through the
when
podcast, through the interview.
Yeah, because usually when we talk, like I talk, no. But just to give myself exactly, that's why it's funny. So to give myself the constraint of asking questions and then listening is so beautiful to me.
Wow, I love that.
So
that's cool. I mean, so there's a really cool game structure for people who know each other really well. Like set aside an hour and someone be the interviewer.
Yeah.
That's amazing. It's like so simple, right? Yeah. But like we just take on and play with the thing.
Yeah. And I love that we kind of had that we had a game around the podcast. Like it feels layered, which is great.
Yeah. Many layers. I want to make that happen somehow, some way.
Yeah.
More time
absolutely.
in the same like physical space where we can actually touch, gesture, sing, do things.
Yeah. I mean, it's not easy to. You don't have a website. You're not on social media. So
stop it. Why are you being so mean to me?
It's just facts, Aaron. It's just facts.
It's weird.
So how do all the people that listen to this podcast and are like, who's this gorgeous magician? It's not what they think. It's my name for you. But in case they're wondering, how can I play with that guy? How can they get in touch with you? If you want them to.
No, I do. I like to people and get in touch with people and really like do this kind of work. Like there's good shit that I do facilitating. So, like recently I've been working with tango teachers to create games to teach tango. And I'm super interested in working like in theater, and theater has a lot of good stuff, but they've kind of lost their way a little bit too. So there's so many like areas I want to collaborate with people in. So how do people get in touch with me? They can text me or call me.
Yeah.
Just so old school. And I think about like, what's the difference between that and a website? And what's the difference between that and being on Instagram? Like, it's kind of none. It's just the same thing. I don't have to fucking answer every call. So, yeah.
Yeah.
So
I'll give them your number.
give them my number. It's +1 in the United States. If you're on that side of the ocean. +1 857-919-0014. WhatsApp works. Telegram works. Signal works. Yeah.
Beautiful. Beautiful.
And voice notes. Like I'm probably going to respond to you with voice notes. If you type something, I'll probably talk to you in a little voice note. So
Yeah, yeah. So I can recommend sending voice notes to Aaron. It's
yes,
fun.
definitely.
I would love it. I would love it if that happened. I hope that happens. I hope someone just sends you a voice note.
Yeah, I think they will. Every time I do a podcast, it's like the same thing. I develop some really cool connections
Beautiful.
with really cool people. So,
Beautiful.
and it limits it somehow. If people are just like going to go on the website and then find a workshop, it's like, that's not a real connection.
Yeah.
So out of like all the people that listen, there's like only a few that will actually reach out in that way. And then
And there's also only a few that would allow being reached out to in that way. So it's an awesome opportunity.
right.
I mean, like we established, you could have been one of the shoo shashas, and
Yeah. No,
people can
I mean,
just text you.
I'm glad you're saying that. I don't like to say that, but it's true. I could have been I could have been a contender. I would have been one of the best in the world. I could have been famous. No,
Oh well, maybe you still will be.
I still am.
So we will end the official part of this.
Cool.
So I would just say for now, yeah, thank you so much for taking the time.
Yeah, it's so nice to spend time with you.
Hey, thank you for listening. I hope you enjoyed our conversation. You might have noticed that this time I didn't put any breaks in it, and I actually didn't cut a lot, just tiny little bits. Mostly this is just our flow of conversation because I liked it. I think it's a little bit of a journey, and I hope you enjoyed following us through the river bends we sailed. So yeah, please do get in touch with Aaron. It would make me proud if someone texted him because of this episode. And again, thank you for listening. Thank you for sharing this with your friends, for rating it, liking it, you know, the things. And yeah, maybe see you soon.